Hi, everyone. I'm Sky. I do communications with the National Center. I wanted to let you guys know that ONAC is here with us today, and they'll be speaking with us and letting us know about a few of their programs that they work on and how to get involved. So with them, we have Amber Faist. You want to come up? And she works with their technical assistance programs, and she's going to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself and the programs that they have going on.
It's the end of the day, isn't it? They saved the best for last. My name is Amber Faist. I'm an enrolled citizen with the Coquel Indian tribe from southern coastal Oregon. I actually live in Tualatin, just outside of the city of Portland, and I work for the Oregon Native American Chamber as the Technical Assistance Program Director. I oversee all of our technical assistance that happens in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Spoiler alert. And, I think, was brought to this work really to serve my community. I'm a recovering entrepreneur is how I really describe it. Entrepreneurship is a really difficult path. It's really difficult to not only put yourself out there, put your livelihood in your hands, but it's also really difficult to navigate what resources are out there in service to you and to your business, and which ones are going to help you navigate the landscape and elevate to where you want to go. I'm a mom. I have 2 young daughters, a dog. I just moved out to suburbia, as I kind of mentioned. I used to live in the city of Portland, and then the pandemic really made me lean into my suburban tendencies, and I found myself apart from community. And I think that's where the Chamber has really been seeking to build networking opportunities and opportunities for Native entrepreneurs to connect with one another, to find community, and to be able to create interbusiness relationships. I'm going to talk a little bit about our organization at a high level, but really want to kind of dig into the technical assistance program. Our executive director was unable to be here today, so I hope not to get too far into the weeds about the work that we do. But I really do want, and I do want entrepreneurs that are here and watching to kind of understand what we do as an organization and what we really seek to provide. Pre-pandemic, we developed a strategic vision to strengthen our ecosystem and to build strong and resource pathways to economic mobility for the opportunity for prosperity. And I think we really identified the 3 ways that we do this. We call them our pillars of service, which are relationship building. That includes, mentorship relationships, networking luncheons, communications and media, as well as our annual gathering, which was just held a few weeks ago. We actually threw a big Native. No, I don't have it on here. No, I don't. It's okay. No worries. I sent a slide deck early this morning. It's okay. It was only 2 slides, not 40. So we just held our annual gathering just a few weeks ago, and really what all of these relationship building events are for our community to come together and really celebrate the vibrant tribal economies that we're trying to build within this region. We had a fashion show. We awarded scholarships to Native students, and we also brought agency partners and local businesses into one room to really be able to come together for the first time since the pandemic. We also, another one of our pillars are education and growth. So that really includes our technical assistance program, business resource navigation, our student awards that I mentioned, and then our Native Enterprise program. And our 3rd pillar is economic justice and transformation, and really that's the work that we do on the advocacy side, partnering with the SBA, partnering with some of our agency partners to ensure that they understand the unique challenges that some of the clients we serve have. we've overseen the growth of this organization as, a response to really the tremendous need that we kept hearing from community, right? So whether we had entrepreneurs in the urban space or in our tribal reservation spaces, the needs are unique and they're different. And what it really takes is, that complex analysis of understanding, how to navigate all of these systems that were really built without, without the intention for us to succeed in them, frankly. At the federal level, we've had an MBDA center here in Portland for the past year, and that specialty center has really enabled us to expand that Native Enterprise program into Washington and Idaho. So now, we have startup businesses going through business development classes that are Native-led, story-driven. And what that means is that throughout that business development course, the stories from Native entrepreneurs are actually featured. And so when people are learning about business development, they're learning from other Native entrepreneurs that have been there, that have learned hard lessons, and that have experiences and stories to tell. I appreciated what Sam was saying. I'm a storyteller. We're all storytellers. And I think it's also the way that we really learn is, how has it been done? What has been lessons learned? What are those experiences that we really need in order to understand how we fit into these different environments and ecosystems? Beyond the MBDA Center, we actually just last month were awarded the Northwest Native PTAC Center. So we're bringing Native PTAC back to the Northwest region. It's been really interesting today to hear about, all of these contracting opportunities and all of these benefits, frankly, that there are for businesses that are looking to enter this space. And we've been doing for a long time resource navigation and referrals to other PTAC centers. And we really have just not seen the dial move, especially when it comes to business growth in particular, businesses that are operating and businesses that have been, really trying to get a footing into these markets. And so we're bringing PTAC back to the Northwest. We're partnering with the other Native PTACs across the nation. And we really want to create a collaborative ecosystem where we're leveraging, who's doing what and how are they doing it well, and how can we partner with them to ensure that the businesses that we're serving are getting the best resource that is out there. I'm not going to dig into that right now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our TA program. And I know it's been a long day, so if you have questions or comments, please let's have a conversation. When we were first, kind of building out our TA program, we were really looking at, what's existing out there and what are we seeing, is beneficial to businesses. What are the gaps for our urban populations and what are the gaps for our rural and tribal communities in Oregon. And what we saw was that, in the urban spaces in Portland, there was a lot of resources. There was a lot of city investment. There was a lot of state investment. There was a lot of agencies that were really looking to build, strong resource networks to support businesses. But then when we would work with clients outside of the city, we had limited ability to be able to say, oh, you need your taxes done. We have, funding to be able to assist with that. Or, oh, you have never set up your books appropriately and you need to meet with a bookkeeper. We have a resource for that. At the start of the pandemic, none of that was happening statewide. It was really leaning on SBDCs and SCORE and some of the other, people that were in those areas. But what we found was those were all coming at a cost. So anytime our businesses would want to engage or get some training, there was a cost associated with it. And it created a very big barrier for a lot of the entrepreneurs that we were serving at that time. So what we've done is we've actually created a technical assistance program that is available at no cost to the entrepreneur. That really seeks to, again, leverage our partners, make sure that we have those strong referral networks, make sure that if there is opportunity for scholarships or funding to be able to be allocated to support those businesses, that we're having those conversations on the front end before we're navigating businesses there. But then we also really leveraged our state agency and philanthropic dollars to be able to create what we call the PSP program, or the Professional Service Provider program. So we've been contracting with Native-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, Latinx businesses to be able to provide those types of assistance that we weren't seeing in our tribal communities. So, in the past year, we've served over, 300 businesses for a total of almost 6,000 hours of technical assistance. And that's not just, us. We have our professional service providers that are preparing taxes, accountants that are talking to businesses about, how their books are set up and how they're planning for the future and ensuring that they're building wealth in this process. We also have a digital marketing component to our professional service provider network, which we've built over 25 websites, 10 of them e-commerce, and these are websites that are actually informed by the business, right? It's not, we have this free website you can have. It's, are you selling, products? Are you selling a service? What is the intention? How can we make sure that we're leveraging the best platform for the business that you are doing currently? So, beyond building websites, a lot of the services from our Native-owned businesses that we're providing are photography, videography. We have some legal assistance that's available. And again, all of these are available at no cost to the entrepreneur. That's really foundational of how we want this program to be offered to Native entrepreneurs. I think it's one thing to not know what you need as a business owner until you meet with an advisor and are really kind of, take a deeper analysis at what your business is and what you need. That's on one hand, understanding I don't know what I don't know. But then on the other hand, how can I make sure that I'm building stability for the way that my business is moving forward? I think a lot of Native entrepreneurs are a little exhausted with being resilient. I think we're pretty tired of navigating grants and loans and a lot of these fiscal resources that we so desperately need. Because for the past 2 years, it's been, the main, focus point of a lot of businesses is, how am I going to survive this pandemic? How we're building our program right now is we're really shifting to, how do we build that stability and how do we make sure that businesses are able to plan for the future and have the resources that they need in order to, have access to all of those things. I think, we're here in Beaverton, which is pretty close to Portland, and our organization is located in the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde building on Barber. And something that we know as a community is that Natives are one of the most underrepresented groups in entrepreneurship. We live in one of these foodie capitals of the U.S., and there isn't one restaurant in Portland that is owned by a Native American that does Native American cuisine. I don't know if you all have been to Bison. We have a coffee shop. It feels like home whenever you get to go there. But in the entire city of Portland, there's less than 10 brick and mortars that are owned by Native businesses. And so the policies that have been, in place for all of these decades were very effective and efficient at really leaving Natives out of, these economies. And I think, for the pathway forward, it's not going to be these same systems that are going to be able to serve us in the ways that we need. And a re-envisioning and an over-resourced ecosystem is really what we're as an organization targeting. We want to find, clear pathways with defined resources that are fully funded, that are ready to work with Native communities and ready to kind of address those difficult questions, what's going on with the trust and treaty relationships? How do you navigate, sovereign immunity? How do you have those conversations and really, support the entrepreneurs, support the tribal businesses, and support, the future of what our tribal economies will look like? Because I can tell you from my experience in working with Native entrepreneurs, they don't always view themselves as capitalists. And actually, entrepreneurship is even a difficult, coat to wear for them a lot of times, because every single business has some form of give back, right? So it's not all about the bottom line and the revenues and how much they're increasing their books. How are they serving their community? What are those community needs that they're meeting? And how are they really able to connect with other Native entrepreneurs to build up those intertribal trades regions? And how are we working with one another to create the recirculation of dollars in our tribal communities? Because for a lot of reservations, excuse me, as soon as a dollar comes in, a dollar goes out. I think it was Siadam Edmo, I'm going to quote her. I just was listening to her last Friday, where she said some of the 2 largest Walmarts in the country are right outside of reservations. So every single dollar that those tribal citizens have to spend on groceries, on clothing, on food, fuel, all of those things, they're all leaving the reservation. I love a question.
Sorry, it's kind of a comment on what you're saying now in relation to kind of what you were saying earlier, is how I'm thinking that these policies and whatnot that are in place that bar, certain development on native lands is definitely leading to and causing, the lack of infrastructure that exists on the reservations, and forces folks to go outside and support businesses that are non-native, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly. We actually are not too far from the Warm Springs Reservation here, and they've been dealing with clean water, which is, it's 2022, almost 2023, and when you talk about infrastructure, it's not there's not buildings for retail. It's like water, electricity, yes, buildings are a component, but it's really, how are we addressing, some of these, what I view as basic necessities and frankly, human rights in our region and in our communities. I've never been to the Nike campus before. This is my first time here today. I've lived in Portland for over 10 years, and I walked onto here today and I really felt almost transported, because I, am coming from a place that has, a lot of visible difficulty and struggle, right? Just, 10 minutes that way. And you come onto campus and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful and it feels peaceful. And, this is the life that this corporation has been able to build for its employees, right here. And we just heard from, the Native American employees here of the benefits that they get to receive as they're working here in the community that they have. And that's the future that I want to envision for our communities as well. How are we able to create spaces where, it's not a corporation that's kind of controlling, our area, our land, our place. I mean, he's not here anymore, but I think I hear a lot about the issues around, trust land and how, those challenges really make it difficult for our private entrepreneurs to be able to get business loans or even to purchase anything. And then to hear the perspective this morning or earlier today about Alaska Native corporations and communities that are really seeking to actually put their land into trust. It feels a little bit like a double-edged sword, and a little bit like, these policies may have been intentional in how we're able to access these resources. So I feel like I'm off topic. It's a little soapboxy. I was hoping I would have a co-speaker with me today. So please, comments and questions are welcomed. I think just, also kind of talking of, oh, yes.
Just curious about the technical assistance that you guys provide. Has that always been a feature of the chamber, or is that something that you've recently added?
I think when everybody thinks about a chamber, they're like, it's a party. We like to get together and network. ribbon cuttings. Yeah, exactly. We don't do ribbon cuttings, but we do get together. We do network. But we actually, we changed about 13 years ago when we, switched over to a 501c3 and actually, kind of realized that meetings and gatherings were not really giving us the change that we wanted to see for the Native entrepreneurs that we were seeing. I think one of our first government contracts was actually with Prosper Portland, doing the Inclusive Business Resource Network. And we were finally able to see, how Mercy Corps Northwest was doing it, and, in partnership with the SBDCs. And we really were trying to figure out, okay, how do we create these resourced pathways to be able to support businesses? And frankly, those first initial businesses that had to go through those pathways that we were forging had really challenging times. They were, for lack of a better word, they were clearing pathways for a bunch of entrepreneurs that were coming behind them, because there was a lot of lessons learned. There was a lot of growth in our partner organizations, and sometimes there was actually, struggles and difficulties as well. So, and I will say, in the past 3 years, our organization has really quadrupled down on our technical assistance and the offerings that we've been providing, mostly because we've had success and we've been asked to fill these roles and these needs. We're not really focused on growing the organization. We really want to, solidify our partnerships. I think, if there's somebody that has been doing it and is doing it well and has that cultural competency, we want to uplift that. We want to support that. And especially with some of our other tribal partners, tribal CDFIs, other technical assistance providers throughout the region, we really want people to be able to go to their community and have access to resources. So even if we're not the primary technical assistance providers, we still make our program available to businesses that are working with some of our other partners as well. So it's really based in resource navigation. That's a lot of the work that we do. I think our staff has just been incredible throughout this pandemic, frankly. Working really hard to make sure that as programs are coming out, as resources are becoming available, our businesses know how to navigate them, that they have assistance if they have questions, or, sometimes it's just, just somebody to talk to about your business, somebody that will listen, somebody that has advice, and somebody that has, some support for you. So, does that answer your question? Yeah, it was long. I'm trying to take up time.
I know that you had talked about your award with the new PTAC in your region. And what was the start date on that again?
October 1st. So we're doing a lot of training right now. PTAC is a new program for us, and we really want to do it well and do it right. I think procurement has an opportunity for that business growth that we really want to see for the businesses that we serve. And we have some businesses that are ready. I think we have clients that we've been serving for a long time and referring to other partners. But there's also, I think, the capacity building for us around getting businesses ready for those types of contracts, making sure that they're comfortable managing debt, making sure that they, have access to the partners who can provide, some insight on, if your application is denied, or, which banking partners have really good connections into Indian country. So October 1st is the answer to that question. And it's the Northwest Native PTAC, so you can Google us and find us.
Thank you for your presentation. Some of the challenges that I see in any country when it comes to nation building or building our entrepreneurs is our very own maybe tribal enterprises and tribal governments not using and purchasing from our native businesses. Buying local, buying native, or buying tribal. And so I see that as a challenge. And, for a point there, we're working to try to get our casinos to purchase locally. And so it's a potentially a big area that if you get your tribe to buy local, that could help, the entrepreneurs flourish and move forward. And so, and I appreciate a lot of these native businesses starting up and trying to sell abroad, meaning off reservation. That's how I call it. You know, not to be international here, but it is international actually. Uh, uh, but how do we get that going where we buy our own? And so, but I think some of the things that we talked about today maybe get in the way. The inability to get access to capital, maybe not having the ability to get the permits, or so forth. And so, but when I look at, because for me, I'm really focused on how do we get our rural tribal communities going so that you don't have to leave the reservation. You mentioned, the leakage. The leakage is pretty bad on most reservations. For every dollar that comes, the minute a dollar comes to a reservation, almost 100% of it is spent off. And so, with all these programs, I think that helps. But, some of the fundamentals, I think, is how do we condition ourselves to buy local? I know back home, which is Navajo, we all love to go to town. We get in the car and we all, it's a weekly or monthly family affair. We go, in our case, we go to Flagstaff or Tuba City, the whole family, we get the pizza, or, we get there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we head home. And, so every dollar that we earn is spent in a local border town. And so, how do we change that social norm that we have? And so I'm just, kind of commenting on, how do we change that so that, one of the things that I think I subscribe to is nation building. I think Harvard coined that phrase, but, I'm taking it to heart. And so the things that we're doing should do that. But maybe we have to educate our tribal leaders that it's okay to buy local, and sometimes I know that when I talk to my tribal leaders, sometimes I wonder if they really grasp what is economic development, what is entrepreneurship. And so maybe we need to focus on that too, in addition to supporting our entrepreneurs. So I'm just thinking out loud, because I support and try to help our Navajo, our Diné Chamber of Commerce. And it's a big challenge because Navajo is so big, 27 million acres, and we understand. I've learned that we have about 6,000 Navajo businesses. I don't know where they are, but they registered, for CARES money, and so, but there's some things that I'm sharing with you from my experience helping our Navajo chamber. So, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that I kind of alluded to it around intertribal trade networks. Before all of this was here, there were established, vibrant, strong, intertribal trade networks. And I think that's something that, NCAIED, the Affiliate Tribes of Northwest Indians for us, really, should be looking at, right? How are we building up those systems? And that's something that we talk about and we support. There's a strange separation of supporting tribal enterprise versus private enterprise. And I think you really kind of hit on the nail on the head when you were like, I want to open a coffee shop. Well, now you're competing with the tribe. We have a lot of businesses who don't feel supported, when on their reservation or in their community. And so when they come to, an urban space where, they can, function a little bit more independently, it's a strange juxtaposition to find ourselves in. And, I agree. It would, in a perfect world, we would have casinos, purchasing from private enterprise, holding events at casinos, and really solidifying all of those partnerships and networks. And I don't know, I don't have the answer. I don't think we have the answer today, but it is something that we should all be asking ourselves is like, who are we doing business with, right? Like, are we exporting as a good stream of revenue for ourselves, but are we also, looking at how we're building our local economies and how are we, supporting each other and holding on to our traditional values as business owners, not as capitalists, right? As entrepreneurs and as people who find themselves in spaces that they don't always identify with. So I think, that's just part of how entrepreneurship is changing. I see it beyond our community as well, which is that businesses want to have their indigenous values as the values of their business. They want potlatch and give back as part of the work that they do in their businesses. They want to work with other indigenous-owned businesses, whether that is, indigenous-owned businesses in Alaska or in North America, Central, South America, New Zealand, all over the world. There's so many opportunities for that intertribal trade network, and it's a larger task than I think one organization or one group can really take on, but that is that's the future for us. So
yeah, just curious. Speaking of casinos or the tribal-owned casinos, do the Oregon tribal-owned casinos contribute to your organization?
Some.
Okay.
Some do, yeah. I think, there's a lot of tribal enterprises, and casinos are big for tourism generally. So, we have casinos listed on our directory, but it is, there's a lot of different types of tribal enterprises and a lot of different economic development that tribes are focusing on, specifically around government contracting. So they have diverse portfolios as well, not just casinos. And I've been kind of alluding to it this entire presentation, but the Oregon Native American Chamber is becoming the Northwest Native American Chamber, the Northwest Native Chamber. We've been serving businesses in Washington and Idaho for the past year, Southwest Washington for a lot longer than that. There's been a call for a chamber to come to Washington and be in existence, and so you can see on our directory now some of those businesses that we've been working with, some of those businesses that are listed there. But yeah, a big announcement, look out and coming in the new year for the Northwest Native Chamber.